Hi, let's basically see once again these definitions. That is, British Computer Society is the Chartered Institute of IT. This is the definition says an integral consultancy role that has responsibility for investigating business systems, identifying options for improving business systems, and bringing the needs of businesses with the use of IT. First of all, it could be internal or external consultancy role. Okay, and the second part, you are not only investigating the business systems, but you may investigate any part of the operations, okay, for the business. Including, it could, if you are working in some manufacturing company, that could be including the product manufacturing, including the packaging, distribution, and other areas, that is a processes, business processes, and also business units it could be, and also maybe include other business systems. Okay, so you may be basically investigating much more than the business systems. Okay, here we are talking about the business analyst role as improving the business, right, not the business system. So then that will include, that will have a wider scope. Identifying options for improving the business systems, again it goes the same. Identifying the option for improving the business actually rather than systems. Okay, so that includes all those things what we just talked about, the processes, operations, system, database, and much more. Okay, and bringing the needs of the business with the use of IT. Yes, most of the time we use the IT for addressing the operations, but it could be without IT as well. Okay, now there is a second, the definition it talks about, basically it's a Bebop guide version number 3, and that's from IIBA. Business analysis is the practice of enabling the change in an enterprise by defining the needs and recommending solutions. Now remember, this part is this is very important. This is a practice of enabling change. Okay, so change is means it could be, change is a small change or large changes. Okay, this change, it is it could be small, the process change, or the large, it could be means the large infrastructure changes. Okay, including the re-engineering and all, right? So you can define the change, and change means it could be anything. Okay, in an enterprise by defining the need and recommending the solution that deliver the value to the stakeholders. Now this is exactly what I was mentioning. Our role is basically we define the need, that is what, if there is a problem or there is the opportunity that organization is facing, and then once we define that, then we identify, we basically recommend a solution. But recommending the solution is again a systematic process that basically we will cover in future all our sessions. And when we talk about recommending the solution, we have to ensure that that delivers a value to the stakeholders. Here it is not only the stakeholders but to the organization as well. Okay, and then next we talk about the business analysis enables the enterprise to articulate the needs and the rationale for the change, and design and describe the solution that can deliver the value. Yes, that's true. We enables our enterprise to articulate the needs, means what are the what are the problems, and what are the opportunities, source and impact of the problem, and how the impact it is basically, um, sorry, impact on from different perspective. That could be your the impact on your business processes, on revenues, on stakeholders, on your customers, on impact on the brand value. There could it basically we will address from different perspective. Okay, and then we see that when we the rationale for the change. So based on that, the problem and the opportunity, when we define the business need and the impact and the risk associated with that problem or the opportunity, we can basically justify the investment. That is a business case that basically talks about what solution we are recommending, what is the cost of the solution, and the what benefit it is going to bring in. So that is your defining the business case. So cost versus benefit. Along with that, we also define the risk, and then we talk about benefit versus risk. So this is basically, these two analysis will help us to understand the rationale for the change. Okay, and then we design and describe the solution that can deliver the value. When we talk about design and describe the solution, so that is a process, we will go through that. And the Bebok question number 3 is basically all about that entire process, about how do we define, design, and basically describe the solution, and what processes will go through that. So in that, it starts with the planning, and then it starts with the elicitation, and then how do we handle the elicitation, how do we collaborate with the stakeholders and define the solution, and how do we manage the requirement during its life cycle. Then how do we conduct the strategy analysis, that is how do we define the current state and how do we define the future state, and what strategy we will follow basically to implement the change, and what are the different design options are there, solution options are there, and what are the different parameters we will consider in order to define the clear choice options and recommend a solution. Okay, and once we recommend a solution, then it will be further what we call analyzed from those requirements will be further analyzed from business requirement to the solution requirement. That's your functional requirement document, and that document will be used by the technical team to develop the system or the solution and test it and implement it. Okay, so this is how we basically deliver the solution, and along with the solution we also deliver the value. We ensure that the solution caters to the needs of the stakeholders and the organization's needs. Okay, question. Here we basically talk about the definition. This is a previous version, but I still feel it is important basically to cover this one. The book is basically divided into the knowledge area. Knowledge area is nothing but activities, and again it is further divided into task. I will basically talk about that. Okay, and that's why it is it is said that it is a set of a task and technique. When we perform the task, we use few BA techniques. Okay, so that's why it is mentioned as a set of a task and technique used to work as a liaison among the stakeholders. I would say collaborate would be rather better word here. Stakeholders, in order to understand the structure, policies and operations of the organization, and recommend a solution that enables the organization to achieve its goal. The definition is still good. Basically, if you see, it's helping you to understand structure, policies and operation, but actually it help you to understand more than that. Actually, structure, policies, operations, culture, your the product and services, your customers, right? So all those things we need to understand of an organization, and based on that you recommend a solution, and so that solution will enable the organization to achieve its goal. So this is still a good definition. Okay. Now, if some of the roles I mentioned, but once we cover the SDLC, that is a software development life cycle, we will again address these role in detail, and we will also address them. What are the activities the business analyst will perform during each phases, and what will be his or her deliverables at the end of each phases. Okay, so that is what we are basically going to study after we finish this part. Okay, now we say that a BA leads to all activities related to strategy analysis, solution scope, business case development, requirement management through the rigor activities across the business solution life cycle, and manage the change throughout its life cycle. The main challenge is to apply analytical skill to business requests which are often high level or lacking information. Then not only we communicate these business wants and needs in a clear and unambiguous way, but also to ensure that these requirements are consistent and not in a contradiction with each other. So that is the last one, is basically talking about the quality of the requirement, but otherwise overall it is talking about the high level the activities what we perform, and that basically covers these activities during during the project life cycle. Okay, now I'm going to talk about the little bit details here. If you see, this is a cycle we mentioned. We conduct the strategy analysis, and from there we define what are our goals and what we intend to achieve. Based on that, we planning and we conduct the planning and monitoring. Then we define the requirement analysis and management, and then from there we once we define the requirement, and then we design and develop those requirement, and we test those requirement and deliver those requirement, and once it is delivery is accepted, it goes into the operation and maintenance. So that's the basically the life cycle. I wouldn't say the life cycle, it is just a high level the project life cycle. We will basically cover that in detail. And now here this slide basically talk about who is business analyst. Now we've seen the various activities the business analyst is performing, but when we talk about there is a bit of a confusion when we say who is business analyst. It is basically anyone who works as a liaison function among the stakeholders. It could be internal or external, in order to understand the structure, policies and operations of an organization and recommend the solution. Okay, so that is one. And the second is the one who is responsible for analyzing the business needs of their client and the stakeholders to help in identifying their business problems and propose the solution. So this is basically two areas you need to consider. So who is a business analyst? So your definition, you may be performing different the activities within this spectrum. For example, you may be just the consultant in top four consulting firms, and you may be only restricted to the business consulting, or you may be working as a business analyst in just one of the systems, or you may be working as a the what we call the business system analyst in a technical team, or you may be analyzing just the data. So it could be, you could be performing various activities, and if the project is large, then there may be a pool of BS, and maybe you may be assigned to only one of the areas, right? If you are a product company, you may, if you are developing the product, you may be uh, um, uh, what we call a part of all the activities and delivering all the deliverables throughout the product development. However, if the product is already developed, and if you are basically your organization is selling those product, and your clients are requesting for some customization, so you may be interacting with the client and understanding their requirement and the customization needs, and that you will be communicating with your technical team, and to ensure that the product is customized and delivered as per the client the expectations. So again, that's again is a different kind of a BA role. You may be working in a vendor company or IT service providers like Accenture or Capgemini. In that case, you may be trying to understand the client requirement and helping them to basically um, um, helping them to understand the requirement, define those requirement, and again collaborating with the IT team to ensure that the requirements are communicated, and those are basically developed and delivered as per the client's need, right, or client specification. So your role could be slightly different depending on the project type, depending on the organization, depending on the project size, and again depending on again the what stage is the project. Okay, so there could be various factors that would basically impact on the type of role you may be playing. Okay, Now, these are the two slides I would like to basically go through at later stage once we do the SDLC. Okay, so let me just give you bit of a high level. This is basically talks about it, the life cycle, project life cycle in a very linear format. That is, business analyst is basically planning, eliciting, and let me just introduce. Yeah, planning, eliciting, documenting the requirement, confirming the requirement, analyzing the requirement, validating them, and basically uh, by collaborating with the business stakeholders, organization, operational requirement, and then those we will be implementing them. Okay, so these are the various ways we can basically um, various activities we may perform during the project life cycle. Here basically we talk about a few the again areas. What we say is that in order to become a successful business analyst, now you have seen what are our the activities and what are our deliverables, okay, in managing the change. So you may see the skill set required by the business analyst are analytical skill and the technique. This is the key part. If you are not, if you don't possess analytical skill, it will become very difficult for you to understand the concept and the complex the environment, business environment. And again, if you don't understand the business and the business environment, then you will be in a difficult situation to basically see where the problem is there, impact of the problem on the business, and on the business and on the customers, on the stakeholders and all. So this is very important for us to have a proper level of analytical ability. Next is a business domain and business domain knowledge. This is extremely important. Without the business domain knowledge, it will be very difficult for you to understand your area, and you will not be able to analyze until you are familiar with the topic. For example, if you are working on working in a regulatory project, for example, and if you don't know what is a business and the operations and the key part, business rules and all those things, it will become very difficult for you to understand where is a problem and what kind of a solution is required. That is only possible when you have some business domain knowledge and you are able to interact with the stakeholders and build your knowledge based on what you have. So the basic knowledge is very important. Basic to intermediate level of domain knowledge is must. Okay. Then we talk about interpersonal soft skills and presentation. So interpersonal soft skills means the communication skill, interpersonal relationship, presentation skills, and again we're talking about the leadership abilities, confidence level, because when you're standing in front of many stakeholders, they could be very senior level. So in that case, when you have to put your point forward, and at times it may not appeal to others, but that may be required for the solution and for the organization. So at that time you definitely need a certain level of a confidence to basically present the views which may not be acceptable by others as well. Okay. Then it comes to the technical domain knowledge. Yes, technical knowledge is very very important. The reason is, if you are collaborating with the technical team, you should be able to communicate with them in their own language, so that becomes important. If you are communicating with a database person, software developer, testing, networking, there are various technical teams are involved, so you should be able to understand the business operation, the processes and other things. Okay, any question? Okay, now in the nutshell, we talk about the business analyst role. Business analyst plays a role in aligning, designing, aligning the designed and delivered solution with the needs of stakeholders. Activities that business analysts perform may include understanding enterprise problems and goals, analyzing needs and solution, devising strategies, driving the change, facilitating the stakeholder collaboration. So there are various, these are again some of the activities we have included, but you may have many much more than that. These are at a very high level activities we have basically mentioned. When we will cover the SDLC, at the time we will cover them in detail. Now there could be different job titles associated for the role. You may be not only called as a business analyst, it may be like a business architect, business system analyst, data analyst, enterprise analyst, management consultant, process analyst, product manager, product owner, requirement engineer, and system analyst, or maybe more, okay, etc. So these are the roles. May again even the your designation may be different, but you may perform slightly different role or activities depending on your the designation. For example, if it is a product manager, then you may be working on a product and helping the product owner to define and develop the product and implement and what we call transition the product, right, in the user community. So that could be the different role. If you are a system analyst, you may be working on the system analysis related requirement, the related role. If you are data analyst, maybe you are performing the data analysis role and seeing that the data requirement and the data quality and the data modeling and etc. That kind of a role you may be performing, right? So you in nutshell, you are basically trying to see what is the data requirement and the data quality, data governance, all those things are related, all the part you are basically addressing. Okay. Now, okay, so this is the basically chapter 1, and we will cover the software development life cycle in the next session.